Hello, my name is Deborah Shalette Wilson, and we are the School of Soul. And this is our third video on getting to know the School of Soul. And I'm here with
Ann Riddels
and
Kathy McCommon.
hi. So today we're going to look at the question of why do we need a School of Soul?
Well, I'd like to say that we've discussed in other videos how we are fragmented growing up. As far as boys are usually taught to be tough and masculine and discouraged from their tender emotional side, and girls are taught to be feminine and discouraged from their tough, seeking to assert themselves masculine side. So what happens to these parts of ourselves that we have separated off from? They're still there, and they're often tucked away in the unconscious mind. We don't even know about them. And if you live with someone long enough, you know there's someone else in there, if not many other people. And some of these parts are very young because they're not part of our growth producing life experience. They stay stuck at a very young age. So they act in a very immature manner, and that causes other people to react to us in an immature manner or how they were raised often. And unless they've done a lot of work on themselves, they usually just do what was done to them when they were that age. So we have a lot of trauma through those unconscious parts of ourselves, which makes us want to keep them in the unconscious mind. And in the School of Soul, we help people become aware of these castaway parts themselves, these unconscious parts.
And often unhealed.
Yes.
Often unhealed.
We don't know about them.
Right. So anything that, well, and I guess the kind of, to be a detective is the way that you can realize that there's some parts of yourself that have been unexpressed, unprocessed, and unintegrated, is that when you have an experience in the present moment, your emotions about it are this big instead of only needing this much. So when we and you can see that it probably a lot more easily in other people than yourself, but that's kind of a big red flag for me, that when I'm having this intense emotional experience about something, that I need to look inside first and get clear with myself about what that's about before I tend to dealing with what's happening in the outer world, because I may overreact and get into that what I call survivor mode, and either get into wanting to fight or run or freeze and not know what to do, or just collapse and withdraw, or fawn, which fawning is just where I'm trying to take care of everybody in hopes that I'm going to be okay. And it really doesn't work.
And I'd like to add the balance to that, in that most men I find in America do the opposite. They don't react to things that need reaction that alerts us there's a problem here, I need to do something. And if you don't react, you often don't do something when our action is absolutely required. Because in healthy people, you react a lot to what's most serious, a little bit, which is a little bit of a problem, or nothing if there's really nothing there. And with trauma, that's all confused. Reacting a lot to nothing and not reacting all to something that's huge and needs our participation.
Right, because trauma makes our thinking confused and distorted. It suppresses short-term memory. It takes us away from our connection to our intuitive intelligence and also to our soul. So we're reacting to things in ways that really don't make sense, except when you're thinking from that confused and distorted place, it's like it makes sense, but in reality, it really doesn't. And then other people are reacting, they react to your reacting, and you can get into what I call a negative neurophysiological feedback loop, which is and it just escalates out of control. And I guess the easiest way to say that is just look at how violence escalates in, domestic violence. One person, it says something and the other person disagrees, and then they don't like it, and it's off and running. Or on the playground, you even see that with children bullying and acting out and stuff.
Well, like I know that from my
turn on the news.
My own experience of learning about how trauma was being reflected in my own life was learning the concept of emotional memory. We have what's called a vagus nerve that runs from the base of our brain all the way through our gut. And it has neurons that carry memories, emotional memories from our life, a lot from our childhood. So when we have these accelerated responses in our lives, whether, you know, you see people in the street acting kind of bizarre. You may see someone in the grocery store acting really bizarre over some of the safety measures that have been put in place. Does that mean that in that moment they just became bizarre? No, they're in all likelihood having an emotional flashback from something that happened in the past that they're totally unaware of. They don't realize that things that have happened in their past are affecting them right now. And so these emotional flashbacks are going to show up, just like Deborah said. They're either going to want to fight you. So you might have some lady trying to fight you in the grocery store line. Or you may be in a conversation with someone and all of a sudden they just dart out of the conversation. That's called running, fleeing. Or maybe they just, you see a child that's just curled up in the corner and they're unable to talk. Maybe they're frozen. They're having the emotional reaction of being frozen. And then of course fawning, where you run around trying to take care of everybody but yourself. So these are indications of emotional flashbacks, and then they start manifesting in adults, but they're really children, which, you know, Anne talks a lot about these little children that run around inside of us. And of course, Deborah's got a really cool bus that kind of reflects some of that she uses with her clients. But just realizing that when you have a strong emotion to something, that's a good indication that you may want to stop and look and see what little child inside of you is wanting to be heard. And those emotions are wonderful gauges for that. And in the School of Soul, we help people to have a safe place to express the emotions and discover the children that are wounded inside of you, that are just wanting a voice. They just want a voice. They want to be heard and to know that you understand them.
And I want to add to that, that when there's something serious going on, of course we have strong emotions, but not serious, that's when there's a problem. Because I know a lot of people right now are reacting strongly, and there is a lot to react to. And I find that's a healthy expression, as long as they're using it to mobilize into action. That's key.
Well, that's the thing. If we're right, if we're well, I know for me that if I'm stressed out or I'm getting triggered, and I'm coming from that survival place, that my ability to make really healthy decisions is limited. That I need, well, and I've learned a lot of techniques to practice that I practice to help me shift when I'm aware that I'm in that survival mode, as I call it, to where I can shift to where I'm over into what I call the love mode. It's more of a where I can thrive, where I'm calm, I'm connected, heart and my brain are connected. We're kind of going on all cylinders. And so my decision making is much better, and I'm more able to communicate in a calm way. And those are some of the things that we work with people on, helping them come up with some ways of how to do that in their own lives as they heal from their traumas. Because these are all parts of the invisible conversation that we have, even with our traumas, that those things that, like Anne was saying, they're unconscious, but we have all of these, I call them all of these parts of ourselves that if we experience some kind of trauma at that developmental level, that's where we're stuck emotionally. And when we're triggered in the present moment, then we react as though we're that age emotionally. And I mean, I think all you have to do is just look out in the world and you can see how people are reacting, not in a very mature emotional way. And so that just, that we have intergenerational trauma, as well as now we're really having collective trauma, and have had in this country for a number of years, with a lot of the things that have been going on that we're not really talking about, we're not really connecting to, that needs to be healed so that we can be, whole and complete and connected to our soul, so that part of us can express itself more into this human experience.
Another thing with the School of Soul, we bring a lot of training, hours and hours of training together. One of the things that we help people with, we use technology called HeartMath and belief work and theta healing. There's lots of different healing modalities that we access in the School of Soul to help each one of our clients cross over that trauma bridge, I guess you'd say, and understand that silent, unspoken conversation, so that the silent conversation can be healthy. Because when it's healthy, then our clients' worlds become more healthy.
And all these silent conversations of unresolved trauma cover up that deeper conversation of our souls trying to get through to us, to understand why we're here. We're here to grow psychologically, and we all have a mission to fulfill. And that is the conversation we're ultimately wanting to get to here and do as asked.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you again for being with us, and we will continue doing videos, and our next series, we're going to get into things a little bit more deeply than we have. This is kind of an overview to kind of help you get to know the School of Soul and each one of us and what we're about and how we're here to help. And again, School of Soul stands for SOS, and that is a sign that we need help. And years ago, when that SOS was, actually it was created, it meant save our soul. It came to be known as save our ship, but it's really originally was save our soul. And that's what we're about, is bringing that soulfulness more into this experience so that we can grow this humanity that's foundering in a lot of traumatic reenactments on each other and creating too much violence and unsafety and unsettledness in our world. We don't really need to keep doing that. Amen. So we appreciate you being here, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.